Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Chances are you or someone you know has diabetes. More than 26 million Americans suffer from it. That's 10 times the numbers from just 50 years ago. But even with diets filled with sugar and soaring obesity rates, there is hope. Some people are actually reversing their diabetes, getting off their medications, and feeling great. Like millions of Americans, Janet Huffstetler felt diabetes ruining her life. Then she changed her diet.
I will tell you, I have never felt so good. I think having my body free of sugar and carbs and processed chemicals has made such a difference.
It's a far cry from the fear she felt 8 years ago when doctors first diagnosed her with diabetes. She saw what it did to her uncle.
He ended up on full dialysis and blind, and he also had coronary bypass surgery, and they had started talking about amputation, but he died.
Diabetes is when there's too much sugar in the blood. The standard treatment is largely medication. Janet's first doctor put her on medication that led to weight gain and depression.
And this kind of made me sluggish, it made me dizzy, it made me lethargic.
Daily life became a series of finger sticks, constantly monitoring her blood sugar levels. Believing there had to be a better way, she changed doctors.
I came home and Googled, and Dr. Westman's name kept coming up, and I was fortunate enough to get in to see him.
That appointment sent her to the nationally recognized Duke Lifestyle Medicine Clinic and Dr. Eric Westman, who helped reverse Janet's diabetes through his diet-only approach.
Diabetes and obesity is complicated. There are lots of factors that are involved, but most experts agree that it's the foods and the beverages that people eat that are the major cause for diabetes and obesity in the U.S. And so that should be the major focus of treatment.
Instead of treating the sugar in his patient's blood with medicine, Westman simply eliminates their sugar intake.
The program is tremendously successful if you do it.
Susan Hollowell did it and went from spending $400 a month on diabetes drugs down to zero.
I was insulin dependent, 5 injections a day. The third day of my diet, my blood sugar dropped to 150, and I asked Dr. Westman, what should I do about my insulin? I didn't want to go over. And he said, get off of it.
That was 3 months ago. Now she's 20 pounds lighter with greater energy than before. Dr. Westman admits it's not easy for some people to give up sugar.
There's a feed forward, a drive that comes from eating sugar, that eating sugar makes you want to eat more sugar.
So his patients use artificial sweeteners to manage their withdrawal symptoms.
After a while, you don't crave those things anymore. You don't want it.
In addition to sugar, Dr. Westman's diabetes diet also limits starches like bread, pasta, and rice because they also raise your blood sugar. Surprisingly, the diet allows patients to eat fats, the unsaturated kind like olive oil and avocados, and saturated fat like coconut oil and butter. Although this diet may sound revolutionary, it's actually a throwback. This is an old medical textbook from the year 1900, before insulin was discovered, advising physicians to put their diabetic patients on a low-carbohydrate, high-fat diet. Dr. Westman tells his patients not to worry about eating saturated fat because the latest science reveals it does not cause heart disease.
So now we're in a phase of education, trying to get the word out on how the cholesterol in the blood and the heart arteries and all that do not get adversely affected by a high-fat diet.
So to avoid diabetes or reverse it, put the brakes on sugar and starch. It's not always easy, but well worth the effort. When we come back, we'll tell you about a secret, shocking crime against little girls. that you should know about. These days, most immigration talk is dominated by the issue of illegals. But certain legal immigrants can also bring problems into our country. One specific practice coming from predominantly African and Middle Eastern cultures is now a growing problem in America. And since it's largely done in secret, it's difficult to stop. More than 5.5 million girls are subjected to female genital mutilation each year. For centuries, women have been performing it on family members, anywhere from infancy to puberty, in mostly Africa and the Middle East.
My legs were spread and I just thought, this is not right. And then I just felt this pain. I remember just screaming. And I think
even if the victim survives, she suffers a lifetime of physical and emotional trauma. Female genital mutilation is when a razor like this or scissors are used to cut off the external genitalia without anesthesia. Often, the area is then sewn shut until marriage. Referred to as female circumcision, a more accurate term is female castration, because the victim loses her ability to become sexually aroused. As a result, she's not tempted to engage in premarital or extramarital intercourse. Although not dictated by the Quran, it's mostly practiced in 29 Muslim-controlled countries like Somalia, Yemen, Ethiopia, and Egypt.
Circumcision is the reason why Muslim women are virtuous, unlike Western women who run after their sexual appetite in any place with any man.
Ayaan Hirsi Ali underwent genital mutilation when she was just 5. On the 700 Club, she said it will only stop when Islam is radically reformed.
Not a day goes by without people who are Muslim using their faith, using the guidance of the Prophet Muhammad and what they read in the Quran to engage in violence and in oppression and to justify that in the name of religion.
The procedure leaves only tiny openings for urination and menstruation, often causing constant pain, recurring infections, and infertility. Intercourse is excruciating, childbirth life-threatening. Currently, an estimated 140 million victims worldwide, including places you wouldn't expect. An astounding 500,000 girls and women in the United States have either undergone female genital mutilation or are at risk of having it done to them. Many live here in New York City and other places with immigrant populations from countries where cutting, as it's called, is commonly practiced. Legal immigrants settling in Los Angeles, Seattle, Minneapolis, Columbus, and Washington, D.C., where survivors marched to raise awareness.
How did it happen? Oh, I was 11 years old, and we were told that we, meaning my sister and I, she was 13 at the time, we were told that we're going somewhere to be made into women.
The experience of FGM, it's, oh my, I don't even think there's a word on earth that I can describe it with. It's cruel, gruesome. No one on earth, I wouldn't even wish it on my enemy. That's how gruesome it is.
Congress passed legislation making it illegal to perform female genital mutilation in the United States and making it a crime to take girls out of the country to do it, a practice known as vacation cutting. 24 states have also outlawed both practices. Shelby Quast leads Equality Now, an organization dedicated to ending FGM in a generation.
Counselors, teachers, the medical community, police, whoever really are frontline professionals that might engage with girls who are at risk, that they have a responsibility to report this as a form of violence against children.
Mm-hmm. Why is this practice performed?
There's many reasons for it, but many of those are based in patriarchy, based in controlling women, based in controlling their sexuality. A lot of it's for myths, mythical reasons. There's myths that her body parts might grow to represent a man's if they're not cut off.
Discussing the practice is generally taboo, although courageous victims speaking out could become powerful agents of change.
So I just hope that other women who have gone through female genital mutilation speak up. Nothing's going to happen to you. Even though I've been told that when I go home, I'll be stoned to death, I'm still not afraid to talk.
They say voicing what was done to them is therapeutic.
I had scary nightmares, like of people chasing me and then kidnapping me to do something to me. But once I started talking about it, I was one of these people that will crawl up in their own little corner and then not talk to anyone. But look at me today. I'm brave enough to stand here and then talk to the whole world.
Several Muslim women break their silence in the groundbreaking documentary Honor Diaries.
We are seeing more cases of female genital mutilation in the US, in Canada, and in UK. So it has been imported into the West as a cultural practice.
Paula Queskin hopes the film will open eyes.
I do believe that it's an element of the honor system, and I think if we can break down the honor system, we will break away issues like FGM and child marriage and forced marriage and honor killings, because these things are all linked together.
Victims of FGM should know there are treatments to repair some of the damage to their bodies. Gynecological surgeon Marcy Bowers is one of the few physicians currently performing them.
Surgical treatment, defibrillation or removing the scar tissue in the middle is important, especially where it comes to pain and where it comes to blocking outflow and allowing childbirth. But also the newly minted surgical procedures that are proven to work are to restore sexual function.
While these treatments will improve a woman's quality of life, the hope is one day they won't be necessary here and around the world. When we come back, how one doctor discovered coconut oil helped reverse her husband's Alzheimer's symptoms. 5 million Americans have Alzheimer's disease, and that number is expected to increase exponentially as baby boomers enter their golden years. If you have a loved one with this dreaded disease, you'll want to listen to this report about how, in some people, coconut oil slows down the progression of Alzheimer's and may also prevent it. Steve Newport's Alzheimer's disease has slowed considerably. Some of his symptoms even reversed, thanks to an unlikely treatment prescribed by his wife, Dr. Mary Newport, a physician who runs a neonatology ward at a Tampa, Florida hospital. She became determined to help her husband after he failed the so-called Alzheimer's clock test.
He drew a few little circles and several numbers, just in a very random pattern, didn't really look anything like a clock. And the doctor pulled me aside and she said, you know, he's actually on the verge of severe Alzheimer's at this point. He's beyond moderate. So that was very, very devastating news.
Dr. Newport began learning everything she could about her husband's disease.
It appears to be a type of diabetes of the brain. And it's a process that starts happening at least 10 or 20 years before you start having symptoms. And it's very similar to type 1 or type 2 diabetes in that you develop a problem with insulin.
In this case, insulin problems prevent brain cells from accepting glucose, their primary fuel. Without it, the cells eventually die. But there is an alternative fuel, ketones, which the cells easily accept. Ketones are metabolized in the liver after you eat medium-chain triglycerides, which are found in coconut oil. So Dr. Newport added coconut oil to Steve's diet. Just 2 weeks later, he took the clock test again, and as you can see, demonstrated stunning improvement.
I thought at the time, was it just good luck? Was it a lot of prayer? Was it the coconut oil? And I thought, well, we're going to keep the coconut oil going.
Then 3 weeks later, he took the clock test a third time and continued to get better. And it wasn't just intellectually, he also improved emotionally and physically.
He was not able to run. He was able to run again. He couldn't read for about 1.5 years. But after somewhere around 2 or 3 months, he was able to read. Instead of being very sluggish, not talking very much in the morning, he would come out, you know, with energy and talkative and joking, and he could find his water and his utensils.
Dr. Newport documented Steve's success in a book called Alzheimer's Disease, What If There Was a Cure? She received this stack of thank you letters from other people whose loved ones' Alzheimer's was helped after they followed Steve's diet. And while coconut oil is encouraging, there's actually something much more powerful. A team of biochemists led by Professor Kieran Clark at England's Oxford University have developed a ketone ester that packs a punch 10 times greater than coconut oil.
It reaches quite considerably higher levels, and you can get whatever levels you want depending on how much you drink.
The problem is they need millions of dollars to mass produce it.
Very expensive, and so we can't make very much of it ourselves. And what we would like is funding so that we could actually scale up and make it. But of course, there's no real profit in manufacturing stuff like that.
So until a high-potency ketone ester is available to the general public, coconut oil is still a good ketone source. Just make sure it's pure, non-hydrogenated. Avoid any hydrogenated oil, which is the same thing as dangerous trans fat. Many people avoid coconut oil because they think it's bad for them, but it's actually very healthy. Dr. Beverly Teeter is a researcher at the University of Maryland who specializes in dietary fats. She says years ago, coconut oil was criticized for raising cholesterol, but scientists have since learned there are 2 kinds of cholesterol, LDL, the bad kind, and HDL, which is very good for you and is the kind coconut oil raises.
So they put out the message that it increased serum cholesterol, but the truth of the matter was it was helping the profile of the serum cholesterol. That never has been corrected in the public press, and I think that's the reason people have misconceptions about it.
So not only does coconut oil improve your cholesterol levels, Dr. Teeter says the way it helps the brains of some Alzheimer's patients can be extended to people with Parkinson's disease, ALS, epilepsy, dementia, even schizophrenia and autism. And one more thing, coconut oil is a natural antibiotic that also helps kill viruses like HIV and herpes viruses.
But the coconut oil tends to keep the bacteria down so that if you're assaulted with the virus, your immune system can concentrate on the virus. It doesn't have to concentrate on 27 other bacteria that you may have been exposed to that day.
So consider coconut oil to improve your overall health and perhaps even go so far as to stave off life-threatening diseases.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
When we come back, we'll tell you how some cancer patients are getting the gift of a clean house. Many cancer patients experience extreme exhaustion from their treatment. This fatigue is especially difficult for women responsible for running a home. The good news is many of them are getting help with the housework for free. Despite her ovarian cancer, Stacy Schwinghammer resolved to be strong for her children.
Whatever energy I had, I needed to use to keep their lives normal and consistent with what routines that they were normally used to. And then, of course, when they went to school, back in bed I went and just didn't move until it was time when they got home.
Cancer treatment, especially chemotherapy, drains your energy, sometimes for weeks on end. Many women don't even have the strength to clean their homes. Now they're getting help, free maid service once a month for 4 months, an idea that grew from one Dallas cleaning business.
So I did it as a company policy for many, many years.
And then fast forward years later, I turned that company policy into a nonprofit, and now we have maid services all over the country that are donating free house cleaning to women with cancer.
Over 1,000 cleaning services from all 50 states are on board.
You know, a lot of times patients don't want to have family clean their home. They don't want to have their best friend come clean their home. And having a stranger sometimes do that is a little bit easier.
So far, 15,000 women have received this gift.
My whole world changed just knowing I could count on them.
Cancer patients or cleaning services that would like to get involved can find a link to the Cleaning for a Reason website at cbnnews.com. A diagnosis of breast cancer can be devastating, but there is some good news for women diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer. New research shows chemotherapy is not necessary in certain cases where doctors previously thought it was. The long-awaited study from the New England Journal of Medicine followed nearly 10,000 women for about a decade. It found most women with small tumors whose cancer had not spread to the lymph nodes did just as well with only hormone therapy as patients who received that treatment plus chemotherapy.
This is definitely good news. This study is something that we've been waiting for several years to give us some direction on where to go with patients.
Chemotherapy, while an effective cancer fighter, often causes serious side effects such as weakened immunity, bone loss, and other problems.
There's, of course, the issue with hair loss. There's the issue with nausea and vomiting, the ongoing fatigue, the changes it makes to your day-to-day how you feel.
If diagnosed with breast cancer, women should talk to their doctor about a genetic test to find out if they might benefit from just the hormone therapy, bypassing chemo. Doctors emphasize this study focuses on women with the early stages of breast cancer, and the best way to catch it early is to get yearly mammograms and do self-exams. Well, that's all the time we have for now. Thanks for tuning in to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. We'll see you again next time.